You are listening to the Horse Radio Network, part of the Equine Network family.
What a beautiful day for horses in the morning.
You are listening to the #1 horse podcast in the world. Here's your entertaining look at the horse world and the people in it.
Good Wednesday morning, everybody. I am Glenn the Geek in a very hot Ocala, Florida.
I'm Jamie Jennings, and it's finally not raining here in Norman, Oklahoma. Yay! Congratulations. You're listening to Horses in the Morning on the Horse Radio Network for Wednesday, May 21st, episode 696, brought to you by State Line Tack and Poseidon Animal Health. Good morning, horse people.
Ah, Wednesday, the day we cover Glenn's favorite topic, horse health. And Jamie makes you feel better about yourself with the latest weird news from around the world.
Let's go!
Happy Wednesday!
Well, good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. We have a lot to do today. We're going to be talking saddles. We're going to be talking arthritis. We're going to have some weird news. And then in the post show, we're going to be talking dogs. So we have a lot going on in today's show. And I did want to mention that I screwed up Monday. Well, I partially screwed up Monday. For the Monday show for the auditors, I put out the wrong episode for the auditors and had to put a correction. So you'll see two in your feed. One had the post show and one did not. That was my screw up. And then our hosting provider apparently had some downtime. So our Monday show didn't get to most people till Monday night or Tuesday. So it's there now, but it was delayed because of a mess up, not on our part. So Monday was just a mess up all around.
And we'd like to point out, too, that it is the time of year where we record later in the day, so yes. I can ride earlier. So the shows are going to come out about an hour and a half later anyway. So just keep that in mind.
Usually between 1 and like 1 o'clock-ish Eastern time is when it would normally come out if there weren't problems. So hopefully today that's what happens. And next I have to say, rest in peace, Norm. Oh, my God.
Oh, Norm.
Did you realize it's been 42 years ago that Cheers started?
I started doing the math, and that would make him like 35 when he filmed it. And I always thought he was like 50.
He looked 50. You're right. He was one of my favorite characters on that show.
Oh,
Cheers.
so good.
He was so good.
So in my later life of radio, there used to be a thing called the Radio Music Awards, and it always happened like around Christmas. And so it was in Vegas. And so you go to Vegas and you got the Radio Music Awards. And I got to spend some time with George Wendt. And
oh, really?
Yeah. And he was hilarious. So the radio, you could probably, I don't know where you could find this, but the RMAs were at Christmas time and they dressed him up as Santa for the award show. And he was on stage, like playing Santa Claus, like during the award show. However, all the radio, because it's Radio Music Awards, every celebrity that is in or around that area of that time gets interviewed by all the radio stations. And so I interviewed Norm dressed as Santa Claus, the day before the Radio Music Awards.
Was he funny? Was he a funny guy?
At that point, I mean, he was pretty salty because he was dressed as Santa Claus, but funny, funny, but like kind of sarcastic and kind of brooding, kind of as you imagine George Wendt dressed as Santa Claus would be. And I'm pretty sure he was like, I don't know. I thoroughly enjoyed him, and I was very sad to see that he passed away.
Yeah, he's one of those guys I haven't thought about in 20 years, because he's not in front of you all the time in a different show. But I saw a great meme today, and it was him going through the pearly gates and the entire choir of angels saying, Norm!
Oh, I love it. It lives in my brain rent-free. Ask me how I'm doing.
How you doing?
It's a dog-eat-dog world out there, and I'm wearing milk-bone underwear. For some reason, that lives in my head rent-free.
Rest in peace, Norm. Have a beer on us. On a positive note, a Chicago teenager named Dorothy Jean Tillman has just become the youngest person in the world to obtain a PhD doctorate at the age of 17.
Overachiever.
She took her first university course at the age of 10. At the age of 14, she obtained an associate diploma, a bachelor's degree, and a master's degree in 1 year. And she's a doctor of behavioral health. She has found time also, in addition to all of that, these overachievers, she has found time to do dance and do choreography. She's also the founder and chief executive of the Dorothy Genis STEAM Leadership Institute. It's a program that includes summer camps designed to help young people in the arts and STEM projects. So there you go. Do you feel like you're a total loser now?
No, but I'm like, farm boy, what took you so long? You just graduated with a master's. She did it at 14, so get it together.
17 years old. What kind of brain that girl has.
Love it. Go, girl.
So yeah, go get it. She'll do great things in the world, I am sure. All right, let's do some daily Whinnies because we don't do great things in the world. We do daily Whinnies. We have one auditor birthday today, and that is very important, and that's Pamela Byers. Happy birthday to you, Pamela.
Hey, Pam. She's on my other neighbor. She lives the other direction. So Patty's on one side and Pam is on the other. So happy birthday.
I'm not supposed to mention the name, I don't think, but Pam got this as a gift from one of her students, the being an auditor. So, so good job.
Oh, do you know what my day looks like, Glenn?
No.
I'm going to Costco. Why am I going to Costco?
Why are you going to Costco?
Because
I know you're not buying the 85 pack of chicken. So
no, but I will be buying about the 85 pack of steak. I'll tell you why. Because my bougie ass son, his birthday is next week. But school lets out tomorrow. Oh my God, tomorrow for his school gets out.
Summer already?
It's summer already. Yeah. School gets out for him tomorrow and Anna on Friday. And so we are hosting a sleepover for a bunch of boys. And so it's going to be Anna and me and a house full of guys. 12-year-olds.
Steak?
I
shopped for steak yesterday. 2 ribeyes were $41.
Yeah, I'm good. So I'm going to Costco, friend.
Bring your credit card.
So say my bougie son, I'm like, what do you guys want for dinner? I can make tacos. We can order pizza. And he's like, can we have steak? I hate you.
with loaded baked potatoes and
I hate you so much right now.
That will cost you if you're having 10 kids over. That'll be about $1,000.
I'm like, you get no presents.
Maybe get him chopped steak. Just tell him it's steak.
I'm gonna get him like what did you have in elementary school? Salisbury steak?
Salisbury steak, which is hamburger basically. So just put some gravy on it, they'll never know.
Hamburger helper for everyone. Yeah.
I was shocked. I hadn't bought steaks in probably 10 years because they've just been expensive. And I thought, I'm gonna get steaks. And I saw 2 ribeyes for $41. And I was like, I'm not getting steaks.
I'm not getting steaks.
Another pack of hamburger.
Yeah.
Put some gravy on it.
Be a vegetarian. And I'm going to tell you in a second.
That isn't cheap anymore either. Jeez.
Nothing's cheap. Nothing in the whole wide world. But why don't you go ahead and do your gross out thing? And I would like everybody to know that the reason he's doing the story is just one more of the many reasons to be vegetarian.
Well, I was going to do the Cavallo story first, but I'll do this one first. So a couple of weeks ago, when you were out one day, I think it was a day that Lisa was on, we had one of her veterinarians on a Wednesday, and she mentioned screwworms. And we kind of joked about screwworms because I didn't really know what they were, and neither did Lisa. And we were like, we don't want those, because she mentioned about screwworms in Mexico, and they're worried about them coming in the United States. And then yesterday, I saw the U.S. Department of Agriculture has temporarily halted the import of live cattle, horses, and bison from Mexico because of screwworms. And I was like, okay, got to look it up. And am I sorry I ever did? I look it up because now that I did look it up, though, you guys gross me out all the time. It's your turn. So a screwworm is essentially a flesh-eating maggot, but not the kind that cleans wounds. Instead of feeding on dead tissue, these maggots specifically feed on live tissue. What makes them dangerous is they only eat the living flesh of warm-blooded animals, including horses. Female screwworm flies lay their eggs in any open wound, no matter how small. They said it can be tiny. And once the eggs hatch, the tiny larvae burrow into the animal's body, munching on healthy tissue. It can cause a lot of pain, a bad smell, and severe damage and death. In fact, horses, along with other livestock, and that includes pets, wildlife, and even humans, are susceptible to infestation. No wonder they put a ban on it. Screwworm flies are attracted to any open wound, again, no matter how small. Even a tick bite can be large enough. And that's how they get in, is through, laying the eggs and getting in through there.
That's it. I'm moving north.
They can also, to make it worse, Canada's looking better all the time, isn't it? They can also infest mucous membranes of orifices such as nostrils, eyes, ears, and genitalia. Okay. Now, no, I'm not done grossing y'all out yet, because I got 15 years of you grossing me out to make up. Symptoms in horses can include an enlarging, draining, foul-smelling wound that doesn't heal. Isn't that fun? Pain, irritation, head shaking, weight loss, and isolation from the herd. Pretty much anything. They do everything. So this is really bad stuff. Now, you did ask me before the show, and I laughed, and then I looked it up because I wanted to see if it was true. You asked me, do you get it? Can you get it eating meat? And from what I read, no. It needs to be this other way. And apparently when you cook the meat, it kills them anyway. So
yeah. But there's that whole I'm gonna eat raw meat kind of thing that has been taken off. You will die. You will get screwworms in your intestines.
I don't eat raw meat, so that's not a problem. Yeah. So anyway, that was the screwworm story. Oh my gosh. Who knew?
That's awesome. I'm moving to Canada. There you go.
Just when we think we've heard it all on this show, there's always one more. There's one more that's going to kill us and our horses. All right, there we go. That was my happy news of the day. In the other happy news, did you ever see Cavalia?
I did. I saw it when I lived in Phoenix.
Did you? It's so sad. They went bankrupt the other day. They're a Montreal-based company, and they were $28 million in debt.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. And, that show could not have been cheap to put on. I mean, they had to travel that. A lot of times it wasn't, it didn't look cheap to put on.
It wasn't cheap to go either.
No,
I mean, it was so expensive. But I get it.
Apparently they kept borrowing money to keep going, and then they would try a new project that didn't work, and then they would borrow more money, and they owed like 5 different banks, and it was millions each. And
who's giving out loans to people that owe millions of dollars? You owe 10. This is going to be the one that gets you over. We owe
$20,000 to somebody, or a credit card. You're never getting a loan. So I don't know how they do it. I don't know how it happens. But yeah, so they didn't get any money from public subsidies or anything like that from Canada, which Canada does do. But it was all just trying to make it with ticket sales. And that's tough. That's a tough road. But they've been doing it since 2003. So I know
they had plenty of time to accrue debt, is what you're saying.
Do you remember the show?
I do.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a bunch of white horses running around doing Liberty stuff. So it's beautiful, but it's just not my thing anymore. But yeah, I mean,
the thing is about that show too, I think, and I could be wrong about this because I'm not a horse crazy girl. Once I see the show once, I'm not necessarily going to go back 5 times.
Probably.
You know what I mean?
I mean, you can't. It was unaffordable too. I think I got the tickets from Chad for my birthday because it was a big thing. It wasn't just I'm going to buy tickets to Cavalia this weekend. Right. It was. But again, I mean, it's an extensive, you're watching it and you're like, how do they afford to do this?
I know. Well, apparently they didn't. So I don't know what's going to happen to the horses. I tried reading a couple articles. Nothing's been said. So.
I'm happy to adopt any of the white Andalusians who are Liberty trained.
They will be well-trained horses. Are you tired of tack that breaks the bank? Trot on over to statelinetack.com and discover their stable steals. It's called Stable Steals. It's right there on the homepage. Amazing deals and top brands that you and your horse will love. But hurry, these steals won't last forever. Find your next stable essential for less. Shop Stable Steals at statelinetack.com. They did that to make it a tongue twister for me to say, I think. And as
do you know what's funny is every week, because of your commercials and our commercials doing State Line Tack, I go to statelinetack.com and I look around, and half the time I put stuff in my shopping cart, and then we finish the show and I don't get to it. Well, they've started texting me. I got a message. Let's see here. When was the last one? It was like, hi, We've noticed that you left something in your cart. It
Oh,
says,
yeah.
"Hi, Sarah here. Did you see something you liked? Reply back if you have any questions." And I've been getting those every week. And poor Sarah must just think I'm the biggest jerk. I never write back. Sarah, sorry, yours it was awesome. I just get distracted. I have ADHD. Like I just lose it. I don't know. I don't know
God,
what's
if
wrong with
Amazon
me.
did that, Jennifer would be getting them every minute.
I know, but
Sorry.
like, looking at it like every week, the same. It's Sarah. Sorry, Sarah. I'm just looking for the commercials, looking at stuff. Oh, it's fine. Whatever. It's fine.
That's funny. Sarah. I wonder if there is a Sarah. I know.
You never know where I'm gonna go, do you?
No, I don't. I have no idea. For our first guest of the day, we have Jochen Schleese, and he is the founder of Schleese Saddles. He's a certified master saddler in Germany, and kind of changed the way we look at the way saddles are built. And we're going to talk to him a little bit about that. And they're going to be doing a few-part series on saddles and saddle fit and what to look for when you're getting a saddle and things like that. So we're going to start with learning a little bit about him and the company. Well, good morning, Jochen. Thank you for joining us today.
Well, good morning. I'm very excited to be here today.
Now, where in the world are you?
I'm right now in Florida. I'm staying here in Florida in the winter, and then in the summer, I go north of Toronto, Canada, in Gravenhurst.
Well, you know what? It's been 95 every day here in Florida. I also live in Ocala. It's time to leave. It's time to go north because it's been hot.
It's super hot.
Yeah. So let's first of all start with the name of the company because this is something all Americans get wrong. So say the name of the company the way you say it.
Schleese.
Schleese. We
That's
say Schleese.
That's fine.
No, it's not fine. It's dumb Americans. Schleese. I'm gonna
Schleese.
sound so bougie talking to everybody about your saddles.
Oh, perfect.
Okay, well, I had to clarify that because I wanted to make sure everybody knew which company we were talking about. Well, you know, you guys are joining us now for a series of different interviews on saddles and things, and we're so happy to have that. It's not a topic we've covered a lot, actually, over the last 15 years. I don't know why, but it isn't. So why did you found Schleese, and what did you feel that saddles didn't do that were in existence at the time you founded Schleese?
Well, I grew up in Buenos Aires and fell in love with horses there. And from that moment on, I thought I want to be a horseman. My parents, coming from Germany, decided in the late 60s to come back to Germany with all of us 4 kids. But I never lost that horse bug, you know, that horse virus we all have. And my parents finally gave in. And before we knew, we ended up 7 horses. And I grew up on horses all my life. And in Germany, it's kind of like a sport, like in North America, it's baseball. It's not something very few people do. It's a big job, a big sport there. And then I had a huge luck that our neighbor was a really good horseman, and I was representing Germany as a 3-day event ride in the junior team. And then I lost my horse. Unexpected lameness. The vets back then couldn't figure it out. And my passion was going into medicine and was going into veterinarian or human medicine. But, you know, I spent too much time in the barn. So I had to go back to evening school to pick up my grades. And Dad said, you know what, you're not just sitting here and playing around on horses, teaching riding lesson or pretend you're a judge. You do need to do a trade. Fine. I decided on saddlery and I fell in love with it. And the reason I fell in love with it, because I could fix my own tack and I could answer a lot of questions, which my dad always says, you know, listen, son, the person who knows the how will always follow the person who knows the why. Because we, as kids, were brought up to understand what we do. So when a saddle was made, I wanted to know how it was made. And then when my horse was lame and pulled from the team, and our sponsors who gave us saddles, I started to question, why does my horse go so much better in this saddle, but the sponsor who gives me so much more money and the nice jacket and the head, my horse doesn't go so well? Of course I wanted the money. Of course I wanted the jacket. I was just a little punk kid. And that is all I wanted. And I didn't listen to my horse. My whole life I have listened to the horse. I have done vaulting, bareback riding, swimming with horses. I was a horse. And then it's amazing how greed makes us sometimes blind. And then I decided after I went to my apprenticeship and I met many, many fabulous body workers and veterinarians and other competitors from all around the world and all our disciplines, there got to be a link, the missing link. There's two beings compiled on each other, and the interface, a saddle. Why is that such a holy grail with everything we got today? And one thing led to another, and man, did the can of worm open. And I opened Schleese because I wanted to create harmony between the horse and the rider and not long-term damage, which I found out 10, 15 years after my horse was already dead. My own saddle cost, which I was sponsored in. And it made me so mad that I went to Daddy and says, Daddy, I go and will tell you now what my calling in life is. My calling in life is there is absolutely no more need, and no person should lose their heart horse. I don't care if you are in the racetrack, if you're an endurance rider, Western rider, or English rider, you should not lose your horse and create long-term damage to your horse or yourself because the equipment does this harm to you. And
what were the saddles, trying to keep this, not too detailed, but what were the saddles doing wrong?
So first of all, we need to go a little bit back in history when saddles were made to get the soldier or the cavalry from A to B faster. And in Kentucky, there's a beautiful horse museum, and you see how in the beginning, how people sat on the horses, and then they developed the saddle. And when they come to North America and fought the natives, first the natives didn't have saddles. Then you go to the next room. All of a sudden, natives have all saddles. And just like the history book shows, the saddle was made for the soldier to yield their weapon easier, more accuracy, but they noticed something. Wow, the horses are so much faster and last longer. So the saddle bypassed with the saddle tree some extremely sensitive nerve endings and cartilage and spinal bones and lumbar areas, where back in the old days, when riding was livelihood, your plowing horse, your carriage horse, your soldier horse, that was not, let's follow an opinion like we do today. So once we had the late, in the 50s and the 60s, the saddles became mass production, and that knowing the anatomy of the saddle doesn't fit anymore the anatomy of the horse. What changed? So what changed was that the saddle, you aren't going to believe it, or you're going to like what I'm going to say now, are made purposely to hit a horse at certain areas, so the horse purposely gets inverted, or flick the front hoof, or stop from cantering, or going in a sway back, which we all know causes the horses severe lordosis or kissing spine. And
which, if you're fighting a battle, are all things that you probably want, right? You want them a little lighter in the front because you're rearing intentionally. I mean, you were saying that, I was thinking about how they fought battles back then.
Yeah, but actually, let me interrupt you there. They did it also with the purpose, I got to go from A to B, and I don't want my horse to be crippled by the time I get there.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
So they actually made it so the shoulder could move better, their state of their spine, their state of the kidneys, ovaries, lumbar area. It's funny how these saddles came 180 degrees and go back the way our ancestor did it. And you know what changed it? It's not me. I started this avalanche. I started by going to the expert and says, you're the expert, you're the veterinarian, you're the body worker, you're the osteopath. You studied anatomy. I'm just a podunk saddle maker, but I want to know. I want to know the why, because that's how my dad raised me. Why is it like this? So, and then I met a very good professor, Dr. Adrian Harrison from Copenhagen, and he said to me, back when I went to university, guess what? We were told in 1978 horse has no pain receptors. Can you believe that? The vets? No pain receptors. And now we have AI, what measures the facial expression of the horse, and multiple universities around the world have now what they call a pain scale. So that's what happened, that people are now finally protected from the, I call it unethical saddle fitters, who sell saddles to put a horse in a false frame.
So what, the other thing you discovered too, and I found this fascinating, was that saddles were really designed for men. And you went, hey, look, we have women mostly in our business. 90% of the people listening today are women. What is, I should be designing saddles for women. What was different for women?
Well, it's very simple. Is when I started making saddles, he says we have to put the spine and the withers of the horse into the saddle. When I was taught, doesn't matter, it was a Western saddle when I built the ground seat or when it was an English saddle. The first thing my master told me, we have to build the spine and the withers into the saddle. And of course, me always asking why? So he says, you're the dumbest apprentice ever. You all ask so many questions. He said, it's clear so that the center of the ground seat, the center of the saddle, cuts into the crotch. So the male's part is either pushed to the left or the side. No male rider will ever be able to ride if the parts are not going to the left or right, because we will simply faint. So in order to have the rider light and shoot the targets and chase whatever he wants to do and move around the horse, walk, trot, canter, sitting, trot, jumping, you name it, we cannot fall on our parts. So this artificial withers and spine is created in the saddle. So when in 1988, the Canadian team member came to me and says, you speak to my gynecologist, please? I says, no. Can you please go to the gynecologist? I says, no. So anyway, the gynecologist came to my little pull-down shop. I had a tiny little shop, it was 100 by 100 feet. And so he brought 2 pelvises. And he says, that many, many women have chronic bladder and kidney infection. Chronic? From what? From saddles. No way, saddles don't do it. Of course, I don't believe it. I'm from Missouri, the show me state. I always needed to understand. So he said to me, I understand why you make saddles like this, because after all, I'm a rider too. And I understand saddles made by men for thousands of years. But in 1978, a big change happened. The majority of the riders are now women, 95% to this day in English, 75% in Western. So now look at these 2 pelvises. The women don't want to sit on a rooftop, right? And the women have different hip sockets, different seat bone, and they have a birth channel. Even for a guy who would like to have maybe, let's say, I want to be a girl now and have a sex change, the pelvis remains the same on the guy. So even if you think, oh, I don't have these parts anymore, the second most damaging, what is also been now written by Dr. James Warson, he's a neurosurgeon, and he said to us in his book, number 1 long-term damage on the rider is L4, L5. There are multiple riders operated on the lower back. Number 2 is the hip and knee pain from the saddle. Now, who am I to question a neurosurgeon? And then, of course, last not least, same what the gynecologist said, chronic bladder and kidney infection. So to summarize this up, he said to me, why don't you take a butt cast? So we created a saddle where people sit in their Lululemon pants, those 4-way stretch pants. We did it with guys too. And now we have a room, what we call our butt museum. And when you walk into this butt museum, you instantly see 2 shapes. I don't care how skinny or big the girl or boy was, how old or young, you see 2 shapes. One looks like a V and one looks like a U. So obviously, the impression of the floor, of the pelvis floor where riders sit on it, we're not always standing in the stirrups when we ride the Kentucky Derby, right? We most of the time sit with our butt in the saddle, and what hits the saddle is the pelvis floor. Now, when I saw that, he said to me, do we really need to put, for the ladies, the withers and the spine into the saddles? And then I patented 1996 a hole in the crotch, which I then sold to the bicycle company. You've probably seen bicycle seat.
Oh, yeah, with the hole, yeah.
Right, and then we came on the front page of the Wall Street Journal, and before you know, we butt cast Tom Selleck and his neighbor. So that was...
That had to
suck.
suck.
The only butt cast of Tom Selleck.
Yeah.
That he knows about, that we know
that
about.
He knows about.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah, so that's how that came about, because it was not because I wanted it. I was perfectly fine in saddles, right? Because when we as a saddle maker make saddles, we form the seat, we form the leather, we sit in, ooh, that's nice and comfortable. Oh yeah, my legs feel it. But when my wife said in my saddle, I thought I married the wrong woman because she constantly complained. So that reminded me of my sister. She stopped riding because of uncomfortable issues. And when you're a little girl, you don't talk about certain things, So you can always walk in shoes that are too tight and hurt your feet. You can always work in underwear that went right up and gave you a wedgie. You can move in equipment what is hypersensitive and hurts you. You can do it. Same with the saddle. You can ride in saddles what hurt you or deform you, but the long-term damage is your joints, your organs, and your disc, because you compensate for something is not your shape.
Well, we're running out of time here. I did want to mention that we're going to do another session. That you started something in 2005 called Saddle Fit for Life, and we're going to have them on to talk about what they do over there in the next couple of weeks. But how do people get help on Saddle Fit with Schleese? Where do they go? Do you have reps all over the country? How's it work?
Yeah, so easy to remember, saddlesforwomen.com. Or if you put my name in, schleese.com, that's Schleese.com, schleese.com. And then just click on info, ask the questions away, and we're literally worldwide available. We also invented the long distance saddle fitting because I believe it is absolutely crucial that the professional teachers, like it was in the cavalry, the sergeants taught the soldiers how to properly gear up. And imagine every rider knows where those trigger points are. See, each side of the horse has 14 trigger points. All you need to do is get the right girth length, get the right saddle pad, get the right saddle, and stay away from the trigger points. A trigger point is like your funny bone on the elbow. If you're a great ping pong player or tennis player, but you got this ghost hitting your funny bone, your serves suck. You cannot get any clear ball over the net. So that's kind of what I'm talking about. That's what I'm so grateful that medical and the veterinarian industry now has identified those 28 trigger points on the horse's back, 14 on each side.
Well, and I wanted to mention too that you have a great YouTube series. Schleese has a great YouTube page where you show all of this visually, and I would highly recommend people go there and check that out. And we appreciate you joining us today. And I'm going to let you go now because you have to get packed to get out of Florida.
That's right. That's right.
It's too hot. So.
My wife is already there. Point is watch. So let's pack the car.
Yeah. Well, thanks again. We appreciate you joining us.
My pleasure.
Attention horse owners, is your horse feeling the pressure from travel, training, or competition? Stress can wreak havoc on gut health, behavior, and performance. Poseidon Animal Health has the veterinarian recommended supplements to keep your horse feeling their best. That's why they've created stress-paced, vet recommended, and scientifically formulated to support your horse from the inside out during times of acute stress. Pair it with Digestive HP and their full gut health reset pack offer daily support for your horse's whole GI tract, designed to support the microbiome and protect your horse from the inside where stress hits its hardest. Poseidon Animal Health products are trusted worldwide by Olympic athletes. Give your horse the same champion treatment. Visit PoseidonAnimalHealth.com today. This Horse Health Report is brought to you by Daily Dose Equine non-GMO core nutrition for horses and ponies of all ages. I would like to welcome to the show Dr. Matt Klotz. He's the Equine Technical Services Veterinarian of Aurora Farm. It's such a hard word to say for me. I don't know why.
In the morning, especially.
Aurora Pharmaceutical. Hi, Dr. Klotz. Thank you for joining us.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Well, so we try to answer listener questions when they come up, and we had a listener ask a question about osteoarthritis, which then I turned to Glenn and I said, what's the difference between osteoarthritis and regular arthritis? Can you answer that one? It's probably really stupid. I'm sorry.
Yeah, there is no difference.
Okay.
Because I
It's
said I don't
just-
know the difference. Now I
It's
don't feel
just
so dumb.
the listener's trying to sound smarter than me. It's fine.
Yeah. OA, osteoarthritis is the proper medical terminology for it. Arthritis is it's just a simpler term. So
Okay.
there's no difference. It's all talking about the same process.
Okay, gotcha. See, you've learned something new today. Well, I guess let's start at the beginning. What is Aurora Pharmaceutical?
Um, Aurora Pharmaceutical is a veterinarian-owned company. It was started by two veterinarians about 15 years ago, or a little over 50, almost 20 years ago now, that had a vision of wanting to try to innovate products and that are cost effective and more effective for veterinarians and animal owners alike to be able to use.
That sounds like it's something that should be very, very welcome in today's
How
world.
about we do that for humans too?
I know,
Let's work on that.
right?
Right.
Do you guys do horses or dogs, cats, or a mix of all animals?
All of the above. Our products cover species from dogs, cats, horses to cattle to poultry to swine. So we cover pretty much all of the major domestic species.
Well,
And
cool.
it's all pharmaceutical vet stuff.
Yes, everything we have is pharmaceuticals. We have I don't know, 3 or 4 or 5 products that are not actual pharmaceuticals per se, but everything is veterinarian only.
Well, you said chickens, so I'll call you later and we'll discuss on with my chicken problems. But for now, we'll stick with osteoarthritis.
I have to talk to our poultry vet about chickens. I only know how to fry them and smoke them.
That's not what mine are for, so I'll call somebody else.
There you go.
So talk a little bit about that. I know there's a bunch of different types of arthritis that is kind of common in horses.
Yes. Arthritis can affect pretty much any bony joint in the body. Anywhere where two bones come together, you can develop arthritis depending on how the body is used and the conformation of the animal. Some arthritis or osteoarthritis is in high motion joints. So in the case of a horse, high motion joints are like hocks, or excuse me, not hocks, stifles, fetlock joints, coffin joints. But then you can also develop arthritis that will be clinically significant to the horse in joints that are much lower motion. So like the distal joints in the hock or the sacroiliac joint, or even actually the pastern joint in the horse is not a real high motion joint per se. So it can affect any joint in your body or the horse's body.
Gotcha. Yeah, it seems to be as an eventer, some of the more common things that you do is inject the hocks. And I always thought when I was a vet tech, it was interesting that the top motion of the top joint of the hock has so much motion, yet you inject the lower joints. And why is that?
Um, just mechanically, as a rule, unless there's some kind of conformational defect in that upper joint in the hock, it's just a very forgiving joint that doesn't develop arthritis regularly just because of its anatomy and mechanics. Those bottom joints in the hock, those bottom 2 joints in the hock, that don't have a lot of motion per se, but they take a lot of impact. And as a horse turns or pushes off at a jump, those bones where they're stacked on top of each other kind of grind against each other in a circular motion. They grind back and forth against each other versus bending and opening up like that upper joint in the hock does. And that's where you get so much wear and tear in them is it's literally bones stacked on top of each other that are just being ground into each other.
Oh, that sounds fun. So what age typically do you start to see arthritis in horses?
It all depends on the horse and their use. So where most of my background in my career has mostly been with Western performance horses, we can see arthritis starting in horses as young as 2 or 3 years of age, because those horses are being pushed really hard for their futurity and derby years. And same thing with race horses. You can see arthritis starting in race horses as early as 3-year-olds because of their level of intense training. Older horses, like a lot of warm bloods, because their disciplines don't have that emphasis on performance and showing as 3 and 4-year-olds. A lot of those horses, we won't start seeing any significant arthritis development till much later in life, as late as 9 or 10-year-olds, because so many of your type of horses, they're not even getting broke till they're 4 or 5 years old sometimes.
I mean, I don't want to point out the obvious, but we'll just move past that. So, what are some of the early signs of arthritis that horse owners can watch out for?
Um, the earliest signs are some kind of lack of performance. So if they start having difficulty changing leads, or reject taking a particular lead, or in my case with a lot of the cutters and reiners that I worked on, a lot of those horses, they'll start having troubles maintaining stops or stopping on their hind end. They'll start wanting to stop on their front end instead of stopping and putting their hind end underneath them. So that's the biggest thing, is some kind of a change in their performance, or a resistance to or an objection to a particular athletic movement that they need to do their job.
Okay. So if you leave it untreated, obviously the Western performance horses, they're not stopping the way they're supposed to, or jumpers are not jumping away, but like just a typical kind of think backyard horse, if you start to notice dripping or lack of performance there, what if you don't treat it? What happens? What's it going to look like?
Um, Depending on the work level of the horse, it's going to progress. It'll progress slower or faster depending on how hard the horse is being used. And then it will progress to overt lameness, meaning, they will limp on the affected leg. Usually, most lameness, we tend to, when we examine horses as veterinarians, and across the board, lameness is usually most evident at the trot versus the other gaits. Usually arthritis won't exhibit an overt lameness at a walk. They may develop some stiffness, turning, or that kind of thing at a walk, but that's usually very advanced arthritis. So, but yeah, untreated, it will progress slower or faster depending on the work level of the horse.
Gotcha. And so what are some treatment options for a horse either diagnosed or heading down the direction of that of getting it?
Yeah. Treatment options are kind of split into 2 areas. Systemic treatments, meaning things that you either administer orally or by injection to the horse, that treats the whole horse's body, or specific localized treatments such as joint, which usually means joint injections, where we've been able to diagnose a specific area, specific joint in the horse that's causing the problems. Systemic treatments include both anti-inflammatory drugs, like firocoxib is probably the most commonly used anti-inflammatory drug now as far as treating OA goes. And there's several really good formulations of that on the market. One of them Aurora happens to make. And then other systemic treatments include the glycosaminoglycans like Adequan or Pinasan. Those drugs have some anti-inflammatory activity, but they actually have disease-modifying activity. So they help actively slow the progression of arthritis and the development of more arthritis. And then the oral supplements are really common. The only oral supplement, to my knowledge, that has had any research proven effect on the progress of arthritis is what's commonly referred to as ASU. ASU stands for avocado saponifiable extract.
I never knew. My wife has been taking that for years, and I never knew what that meant.
Yeah, ASU. And it's the only, to my knowledge, it's the only oral anything you can give a horse that's really been proven to change the course of disease when it comes to arthritis. So
it works on my wife, I can say. When
she'll pass a vet check.
Yeah, when she stops it, in a week or two, she's not taking it, right? So
well, that's interesting because back in my past life of being a vet tech, one of the jokes that the vet that I worked for would say is that, people would say, well, what can I give them the feed through? And obviously the Cosequin ASU was there, but he was like, anything else, the dogs move really well because the horses can't digest that molecule, but the dogs could when they eat the poops, that they move around great.
That's funny.
So so the ASU is the good one. Obviously, injections and anything like that, and you just kind of decide like preventative wise for the ASU or the Pitocin or the Adequan. That's like a preventative, and then you've got it. It's right here. You go in there with a needle and inject the joint.
Yeah, and I think the time for the Adequan, Pinasan, ASU, the time for that is when a horse is in training before they have a problem. I think all of those things have a lot more effect in the prevention of the development of disease versus when a horse is overtly lame. They're another tool in our toolbox to give to help the further development of disease. But once a horse is actually lame or having performance inhibiting problems, then we're going to be looking towards, number one, anti-inflammatory treatments systemically, like firocoxib, or then if we can nail down the joint to treat, we're going to go locally and treat that joint specifically with one of the many treatments that are available to us today.
You guys have a product called Equicoxib, and that's it's a firocoxib. It's the one for inflammation and pain. Can you use that long term though, or is that a short term thing? Is it harmful long term, like all the time?
A lot of veterinarians, especially for some older chronic horses, will use it very long term or use it in bursts. By its label, it's labeled for 14 days of treatment. But I know there's a lot of times that the welfare of the animal dictates that we carry that treatment on much longer than that. And so far it's over, it's been on the market now almost 20 years, has proven very safe for that.
You got to kind of weigh your options there, as far as who's getting it and the reason they're getting it. Well, Dr. Klotz, Dr. Matt Klotz from Aurora Pharmaceutical, thank you so much. I feel like I've picked your brain enough, and I'll let you go get another cup of coffee. But thank you so much for coming on and joining us and talking to us about all of this and answering questions our listeners have.
Yeah. One thing that I'd really like to emphasize before we jump off of here, though, is there is the advances in treating arthritis in horses over the last 10 years has been pretty mind-boggling. And now that we have so many great tools in our toolbox, not one tool fits all horses. And ultimately, a horse needs a very good relationship with a veterinarian, and proper treatment for every horse is going to be on an individual basis that relies on on a good examination by a veterinarian and a good diagnosis. And so that's something I always tried to stress to my clients and still do to this day, that the no treatment is going to be its best without a good diagnosis. So just stress that to everybody, that have a good relationship with your veterinarian and spend the time to get a good diagnosis.
I like to think of your vet is a part of your team, just like your farrier. You
Absolutely.
guys all got to work together to be the most successful version that you want to be. So again, yeah, very important. And obviously, all of these medications, all that, you can't just go out and buy them. You need to have a relationship with your veterinarian. So really important, Dr. Klotz. Thank you so much for pointing that out.
You're very welcome.
Thanks again. We appreciate you joining us. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. If there's anything I can ever do in the future, don't hesitate to reach out.
Thank you. That's very kind.
It's AuroraPharmaceutical.com.
Time to learn why some days you're embarrassed to be part of the human race in Jamie's Weird News.
Well, I'd like to thank everybody who sent me a weird news story. And bonus, this is 2 weeks worth of weird news. And so Delia, Michelle, Jolynn, Nicole, Julia, Julie, Laureen, Kelly, Rosemary, Glenn, Shelly, Amy, Maggie, Jenny, Katie, Lori, Angie, and Alicia. Woo!
You all need a life.
I love it. Keep sending them. And I would like to also, I think, let's see, was it Jenny? One of y'all, but a bunch of y'all sent me some very, very inappropriate weird news stories, which I obviously cannot read on the air.
That's a separate show. We need to start a separate show for those.
I know. I would like to point out, no, I couldn't even retell some of these. I just couldn't do it. But I would like to point out that I really do, even though I can't read them on the show, really do enjoy them. So thank you. Keep sending those, girls, but I love it anyway. Okay, so let's start with before I get to the first weird news story, I need you to get out a pen and paper, Glenn, because you have got, it's just, you only have a couple days left to register for this one very special event, and it is in driving distance for you, so you can get there. It's in South Carolina. I think you need to go ahead and register. It already has a record 161 people signed up, but they're expecting a lot more.
Competition stiff.
You're gonna regret that. Oh my God. It is a 5K.
I have no idea what the story is either.
It's a 5K for naked people.
Sometimes you just get lucky.
It just happens. The magic just happens. That's why we're still here. The Carolina Foothills Resort is a nudist resort in Spartanburg County, and this year they're having their Buck Creek Streak. Already has a high number of people registered for the race on June 14th. They say you can go anywhere and do a 5K, but you can't go anywhere and run a 5K naked, says the owner.
Nor do you want to. So my question is, 5K is a long run, right? That's not short. That's not a mile. So that's depending on your anatomy, that could be painful as well.
I'm sorry. It hurts my boobs to think about it.
Okay, yes. It's like, who
and then
for that?
Who wants to see all these schlongdongs running up and down the street, whacking the sides? Oh my God.
I feel like that's been a theme on today's show after our previous guest. I think let's move on.
There are already times where I hold my boobs trying to do a sitting trot, okay? Much less run a 5K. Good God. Okay, well, just if you want the information.
How many spectators are on that course?
Well, here's the thing. You actually have to go to the resort. First-time visitors have to pass a background check before you're allowed onto resort grounds. So you will be totally safe, okay?
That's good. Yeah.
So you have to get your registration in by June 13th. But if you are already like part of the resort, you can just sign up day of. Just go for it. You get a free lunch.
Equine Network to cover it or to cover the cost if I go, cover the event?
I just can't imagine a reason I would want to see that. Okay, it's fine. It's fine.
So if you had a choice between covering that as a reporter or covering the Florida Man Olympics, which would you pick?
I'm doing Florida Man all day.
I think so
All
too. I do
day.
think so too.
Okay, we're gonna go to Toledo, Ohio, because this is something that at least 90% of you would do. And I would do it. I mean, heck, Glenn would probably do this. And my sister-in-law actually did this.
Oh no, what?
A woman in Ohio crashed her car because there was a spider and I was trying to get it.
That's Jennifer. That is definitely my wife.
The problem is she was on a bridge. Focused. Focus, okay? She ended up crashing into like a overhead bridge support beam.
Ooh.
How old would you say this woman is? Because my sister-in-law was 17 when there was a bee in her car, and she ran off
I would have
the road
more trouble with
into
the
a
bee than
ditch.
the spider, I think. So
She's 40, so it can happen to any of us people, okay? Yeah. She ended up breaking her wrist and had to be taken to the hospital, and she did get a ticket for failure to control her vehicle.
the bridge always wins. Oh, look at the boat the other day that tried to go, that Mexican Navy
I
boat. It
saw
won
that.
too. It was terrible.
I thought that was AI. I'm like, there's no way that happened. It turns out it did.
Too at first. I thought it was AI too.
I don't trust nothing now.
Boats have it against bridges this year. It's a tough year for bridges.
We're gonna go ahead play the next one because we're gonna stay on the bridge theme.
Oh, good. You know, bridges. I have a phobia for bridges, so this is good.
Well, if you were driving up to a bridge and you saw not one, not two, at least 4 signs that say road closed, bridge closed, stop here, do not go any further. Do you think you would pass all of those?
No, I think I'd stop. I really do, because I don't like bridges anyway. So I'd be okay.
So there was an engineer who had they put all these signs out, and they cannot believe what happened. Not one, not two, but 3 drivers decided that they would just go around those signs that they said they didn't see, but the chief deputy was like, there's no way they didn't see them, because they had to drive around the signs to get on. The first driver, a 15-year-old girl in an Audi A4.
Okay. What the hell? She doesn't have a driver's license, does she?
That would be one. One problem. The other problem would be, why is a 15-year-old driving an Audi A4? Okay. Then we're going to go to the 18-year-old who was also driving an Audi S4. And then
what is it with Audi drivers?
I know, right? And the third driver was 18 and was driving a Chevy Cruze. Okay. So the 15-year-old girl loops around. She goes through where they're like, bridge closed, stop. And then the 18-year-old driver, also in the Audi, went around. And then the lady, the girl in the Chevy Cruze, goes around, and they're all driving. And turns out, Glenn, they're all friends. Okay. They're all friends. And on the other side of that bridge, what was so important that they had to get to?
Don't know.
Starbucks.
Did they end up in the creek? Was the bridge closed because there was a big hole in it? Or
here's the problem. It wasn't a hole. It had just been paved.
Oh.
So first car, Audi, is like, imagine if they start to drive into a lake. Okay. And so she drives out, falls in. Okay. The second driver falls in. Third driver's in a bigger car and is hauling butt to try to catch up. And the road doesn't stop her, but the other car's whack. She hits the other car. So now there's a 3-car pileup, and they're knee deep in cement on this. This is like the worst. I mean, that's the worst. You're so stupid. What is wrong with you?
Not only that, you're going to get the bill for having to repave the whole bridge.
$200,000 in damage,
and
that
3 ruined cars.
And 3 ruined cars. They ended up able to get 2 of them out. 2 of the vehicles were able to like drive out. The third car wouldn't start. It's left there and will remain until the concrete dries a little bit, because they're like, we don't want to get a tow truck up there and do more damage. So this little girl's, I think it's the Audi. The first Audi I mentioned is just it lives there. Maybe they'll pave over it and they'll be like,
Yeah. Or around it.
oh,
There'll
oh
be
God.
permanent signs going
Yeah.
around it. Oh my God.
Stupid. So stupid.
That's funny.
Now, if you thought that the last one was stupid, we're going to go to Gulfport, okay?
Louisiana.
No, this one's Mississippi.
Oh,
We're
Mississippi.
going to go to Mississippi. Because a woman in Mississippi, you know what? Where are you going to go in Mississippi if you want to get stuff, okay? She went to the Dollar General, okay? But here's the problem. She didn't have no money. And she needed some stuff from the Dollar General. So she just walked in she took a gun and she walked in at 9:32 p.m. on Sunday, May 11th at the Dollar General. And she waved that gun around and she said, I need some money. Give me the money. Her name is Jasenia Faye Ezel. And she demanded the money. And apparently one of the Dollar General people tried to stop her and she got into a fight with that employee. And then she took all the money and she ran out, Glenn. She just ran on out. You think it would be over there? Well, Dollar General called the police and they were like, hey, we just got robbed. We need you guys to come here. So officers are in the store and they're investigating the crime. When Jasenia Faye Ezel came back in, she said, y'all see my phone? I left my phone in here.
Drugs are bad.
She dropped her phone when she was robbing the store and came back with all the police cars there to get her phone back. Here's the shocker. She was immediately arrested.
And you know what? It's gotta be sucked to be a robber nowadays because nobody pays cash. There's like no money in the till anymore.
There's like $4 at a
Yes.
Dollar General.
Yeah,
You just went to
exactly.
jail for $4.
Exactly. And that they there's been I've seen a bunch of articles about them robbing nail salons. How much cash is in a nail salon?
But they got tips. I'll tip at least $4 to get my nails done. Okay. Oh my God. So there you go. There's your collection of stupid people. Drugs are bad. Don't be dumb. Read the signs. Whatever.
You got those kids on the bridge. They're the same kids that bypass the arm that comes down for the train. They're the same ones.
Right?
Yep.
It's funny with watching all the news recently. The guy who we watch on the news, his name is David Payne, and he cracks me up because they will have cameras up like where there's people, like flooded areas, and the car will go into the flooding. He's like, "What are you doing? What are you doing? You're gonna ruin your car." What? Oh, there they go. You've ruined that car. And then they got storm trackers out chasing. This is the one that happened the other day. And he's watching storm chasers. And as the storm chaser drives, somebody like whoosh rips past, like, mind you, tornadic weather, okay, and passes the storm chaser in the opposite lane. And he's just like, well, that wasn't a good idea. We're gonna see them up the a minute on the side of it. Like, so stupid. What's wrong with you people? Slow down.
If I see Reed Timmer in front of me in his tank, I am not passing him.
No. Don't try to go where those people go. Okay, just don't do it. Just don't do it. And
he got caught in a tornado the other day. The one went right over him in his tank that he drives around. So that was good video. He did. Anyway,
unbelievable.
Well, thank you for joining us today. We really appreciate it, everybody. Tomorrow we have the travel show here for you. Award-winning, now I can say travel show. And then on Friday, we're going to do some really bad ads. It seems like a month since we've done really bad ads. It's only been a couple of weeks, but I'm sure they're stacking up too. So get your ads into Jennifer@horseradionetwork.com. We have a bunch of prizes for you that you'll be qualified for if you send in an ad. And we want some of you to record your own. We're doing all the work here. You're supposed to be helping us out. So record those ads. We have a post show for you in just a minute, but my meme of the day is I have started a paid website called Older Fan, where people come to see what injury I have and how I got it. I feel like you could do that for horse people. We could start.
The problem is when you're old, you don't know how you got it. It's like the comedian Nate Bargatze. He's like, man, you get old. Like, he's like, I pulled a muscle. Like, right, and he points to his chest. He's like, I think it must have been in my soul, because he's like, oh, the front hurts. Oh, wait, no, the back hurts too. Pull the muscle
It
in
is
my
so
soul.
true. Jennifer will come in this huge bruise on her leg, and I'll say, "How'd you get that?" She's like, "I don't know."
And we don't know. No,
It's
no
like-
clue.
All right, so look for us on the new website, Older Fan. Jamie and I will be there.
Sounds good.